How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Reel Northern Bass. In this video, we're going to break down some of our favorite techniques we like to use late in the fishing season here in the Northeast, but also go over a lot of locations as well and really elaborate on why those locations are so good for us and why it is we're recommending this for you. We actually pulled this whole thing from the weekly live stream that we do every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's not quite the standard format that we usually have, but the information that we are sharing in there is still very, very good. So I decided I want to take the whole hour and a half thing and break it down to just the meat and potatoes of this. Hopefully find this very helpful, and I wish you guys luck this weekend as well as into the rest of this late season of fishing. So the plan for today was to talk about late season techniques, right, and then spots. So we're gonna do a lot of map stuff. We'll cover some good old depth charts, but let's talk about go-to techniques.
I like throwing everything.
That you do.
Jigs, jerk baits, whipless crankbaits, blade baits are starting to come into play a little bit. Not yet, but they will be. I mean, honestly, I still throw everything that I always throw all year. Just my cadence is a little slower. I'm still thinking like super cold water right now.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing.
It's slowing down. It's either going to be one or the other. It's going to be real fast or it's going to be real slow.
We're on the cusp of it. So even if you wanted to talk about really, really cold, like bigger bodies of water are still probably 50 to 54, depending upon where you are in the greater Northeast. So that really cold water is not that far behind. We're only like 2 or 3 weeks away from it.
55, 54, 56 area. If you think about it, it's pretty much just like pre-spawn. Pretty much going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be eating and eating and eating and eating until it gets really cold and their metabolism starts to slow down and they move into the wintering holes. So reaction baits right now should be working very well, like jerk baits and chatter baits and spinner baits and glide baits and all those fun moving baits. And then you get to the bottom contact, jigs, Ned rigs, drop shot, pretty much all the same stuff, just you got to figure out the cadence that they're biting at.
And that was a big thing. Granted, we were fishing in the river, the Connecticut River on Sunday. It's not like it's anything special. Everybody knows about it. It's probably one of the most hammered holes in the whole state, aside from somewhere on the maybe like Winnipesaukee or something, right? So there's no secrets out there. But when you're fishing current, you're really going to find something that if you're working the bottom, you got to find something that works the bottom at a perfect rate while you're flowing with the same pace of the current. And that it took us a little bit to kind of figure that out, depending on, when you're trying to worry about depth, you're trying to worry about the speed of the current, you're trying to worry about the size of the bait that you're working with. But what ended up being really killer for me, and while it's really, really good on the river on this past Sunday, it's also deadly effective pretty much everywhere else, like now until April, is just a simple Ned rig. But here's the thing. If I'm going to do it, I want it to be heavier. Typically when I throw a Ned rig, I'm going like 1/20th ounce. This time of the year, I'm going 1/4 ounce, sometimes 3/8 ounce. The added benefit to that is it's dual purpose, where if you get the right Ned head, it also doubles as a Damiki rig. You can, literally in the same drop, you've got a fish that's below you, it's 5 feet off the bottom. You can drop that, hanging a few feet over its head, and just straight Damiki it. As long as you get a nice hook that has that line tie 90 degrees to the hook shank. And then from there, if they don't bite it when you're hanging over their head, you can just drop it. And they'll go down and they'll pick it up off the bottom half the time. Then there's vice versa. You can just bomb the thing out, drag it. If you're not getting anything, then by the time you get to the boat, then you can just reel it up and hang it under the boat. So as stupid, as simple as it sounds, it's something that's still worth reiterating because of that versatility you can have in something like that. Now you get into the colder water, is where we really start to play around with different trailers on a presentation like that. Like Magic Flick from Beast Coast Fishing, to me, is one of the most versatile baits because it does everything so exceptionally well. You can take one bait and work from a drop shot to a Ned rig to a Damiki rig to a jig trailer. It does all of those things exceptionally well. We'll throw a lot of different subtle baits on football jigs. Small. 3 inches or less. Like 2.5 inches has really been like the go-to size for us the last few years. Mm-hmm. Especially once that water hits 50, all the way to ice in. And keeping your dressing super simple. You don't want a lot of skirt. Hair, okay. Very okay, and even encouraged. And just finding different head styles that allow you to be versatile in how you're going to present that bait is the other half of it. Kind of a lot that was said there at one point, but the gist of it, if we're talking about, I guess, my go-to technique, it's going to be something like a Ned rig or Damiki, like especially something that, even with one rod, I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, depending upon what I'm seeing down there. which is always good. That's certainly the one. You touched on everything. God damn.
Sorry.
Did you leave any stone unturned?
It was quick, but I said it all.
Well, let's go on the other side of the spectrum. I mean, you did say glides for big fish, but I think one of the things that people should not overlook are big swim baits, big soft body swim baits.
And teeny tiny little baits.
Both ends of the spectrum. But Miyagi from Beast Coast, perfect, bigger soft body swim bait. That even though the water's still cold, they're still going to go out there and look for a meal plenty of times. And that's a bait that you can throw either on like a weighted belly hook, like a beast hook, or you can throw it on a big old jig head, whether it's a swim jig head, or one of the things I really like to do if I can find the right one is throwing on like a 1/2 ounce football jig with like a 5-aught hook.
We were out December. Water temp was like high 30s, low 40s. I was throwing a 3/4 ounce football head with a 5-inch spark shad in like 55 feet of water on the bottom. First cast with it caught a 4.5 pound smallie. If you're really looking for that bigger fish, they still want a meal. But I feel like the smaller the bait in the winter, the more apt they are to go actually chase it down and eat it. Kind of need to put those bigger baits right in their face.
True.
To eat.
All right, we covered like super finesse. We covered the big stuff. Other favorite techniques right now: jerkbait, blade bait. Let's talk about jerkbait a little bit more because we've covered 2 things in the bottom. So let's cover the middle of the water column. Technically, Tamiki is the middle of the water column.
It can be anywhere.
Jerkbait, deep diving crankbaits, I would say, are absolutely in play right now. I feel like if you had a really good 20-foot diving crankbait right now,
That's what I have.
You could do exceptionally well, especially if you have a body of water that's got really good schools of smelt, alewife, yellow perch, white perch, crappie. Like really anywhere you can get into those clouds of bait fish and get that crankbait down towards them, they're probably going to smoke it. And if you have something like forward-facing sonar and you can see these fish following it, but they're not committing to it, that's where that deeper diving jerkbait is going to come in. The beauty about jerkbait right now, too, is that you can cover all of your cadences in one shot.
Cadence is huge. Cadence is 100% absolutely a thing. A few years back, my friend Kristen and I went out fishing at a local watering hole. I was throwing a jerkbait, and I wasn't going super fast. It was late fall. I was doing like 2 to 3 twitches and pausing for like 10 seconds in between, and I didn't get bit all day until we got to this one flat, and I was just like, you know what, whatever. And I was like cracking it, pause, reel up the slack, and then I ended up catching that slab crappie, which was a state record. I didn't know it. And I ended up catching like a few more 3.5 pound small largies. And that was just the cadence that they were biting at. So I have learned that you can either go super slow at this time of year or really, really fast. You just got to really play with your cadences to figure out what they're going to bite.
Yeah, especially right now where we're in like that really low 50s to upper 40s. Once you get down to that 45 to 40 degree window, that's where I'm definitely going to be like, you got to slow way down or start to slow down much more often than not. But where we're still kind of up on that higher end of colder water, faster seems to be much more successful for us much more often. And not just this season. This is going back to every season prior to this. So taking into account all of those situations we've been in, faster does definitely seem to be better. If you're looking for like a really clear-cut answer, start with a moderate pace, speed it the hell up after that, give that a shot, and then and only then would I say slow it way the hell down. Even better, if you're in a spot that you already know that's like a really good spot, like high probability of success, I'd start hella fast, then go wicked slow for another handful of casts, then maybe try something in the middle. That's really probably your quickest way to get through it and figure out what they want, specific to a jerkbait.
Mm-hmm. Like square bills and stuff the same way, though. You can go real slow and then pause, and then real slow and then pause. Or you can go real fast with a pause and then move it slow with a pause and then back to real fast. I mean, there's so many different cadences for crankbaits that you can use that you just got to go out there and actually do the work, put the time in, and figure out what they're going to bite.
Yep. All right, we've talked enough about baits. Let's talk about maps. I believe I'm on Lake Menominee down in Mass. I don't know why. I just started zooming in, and that's where my mouse went.
That's where we are.
You know what? This is actually a perfect example because it's a tweener. That's certainly not what you would call a kettle pond, but it's not a big, deep glacial lake either.
No, definitely not.
That's a tweener. So if we're talking right now, everything we experienced last weekend and really the weekend before, because water temps haven't changed too much, and now what we're expecting this weekend, where your starting points are smallies and largies.
There's a lot of spots you kind of want to move back up into those quick transition areas. but with something kind of like this right here. It's a fast drop, and there's a plateau here. A lot of times those fish will move in and out of here and along this stuff here, searching for bait. And a lot of times they just like to hang out right in these areas right here. Something where it likes to come down, plateau off, and then drop again are always really good spots. Or that really steep bank right here, and there's a little flat here. It's not much, but it's enough for those fish to hold up. Same as right in here, in this section here. This whole area, I would actually probably start right in this whole area right here. This spot here, I would probably first pick up a jig and hit all these little pockets. Start getting them here. They're most likely going to be up in here. I'll throw a jerkbait up in here. I'll throw a crankbait. I'll throw a glide. I'll throw all that type of stuff up in there. But jig, drop shot, blade baits in areas like this here where it drops off fast and it kind of plateaus and it's close to deeper water. Same thing down in here. That's 9 feet to 15, drops off to 15 feet, right down into 20 something feet there.
Yeah, you got that little bit of a flat kind of in the middle right next to that deep hole too.
Right, and there's a deep hole here. You got a flat here. All these kind of areas where it goes a little deeper and it starts to flatten off, like plateau off, those fish will stack right up on top of that. Oh, hello.
Yeah, even there, different times of the day, having that really deep hole, really, really, really sharp contours, like that's high probability area.
Like all around this should be good. Off this here, right in there, honestly. That's probably a really good spot right here.
Yeah, and using the scale, like I was able to see the scale at the same time you were over there. That flat is pretty big. It's like 70 feet. So there's like plenty of spot right at that 12, 13 foot depth.
It's like a 90
that they could really hang.
It's like a 90 foot.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's even bigger.
So that's actually pretty good size.
Plenty of spot for like a little spot for them to hang and dwell. See, there's your Schmedium lake to cover for spots. All right, let's cover the big body of water.
Let's just pick a spot here. Okay.
Big body of water, insane amount of deep water around it. Here's the thing. When you're getting to this late in the time of the year, get away from those offshore humps. For the most part, get towards mainland points. Mm-hmm. And in this case, if you're talking about Champlain, everything like in the middle, North Hero, South Hero, I would consider those mainland points. Even though they're still islands, I would still consider them mainland points.
I mean, this is dropping off from that like 15-foot range down into 40 feet.
Oh, yeah, but
they will sit.
That's like a whole ledge for a long ways right at that ideal depth.
All along this. Ooh. They got a short run up to shallow water and a short run down to super deep water.
Yeah, that's the main current coming through there too. Mm-hmm. Two different schools of thoughts on that. One, potential for it to deliver and replenish more bait fish. High. Also, the potential for that to be some of the coldest water you'll find in the lake, also very high. And in this case, I know that for a fact that's going to be some of the coldest water you'll find.
Yeah, because it's freezing out there.
Yeah, well, it's like 400 feet deep in the middle of that friggin' chasms, and then the current's just coming through, so it's chilly.
Bigger water. If you could figure out a pattern, a deep water pattern, you could travel to almost any area that is like that, and you should be able to get them. As long as you keep it in the same depth range, you should be okay. Like what is this?
Same depth range and then same distance relative to that same deep water too. Like honestly, that's
this spot here looks really good. I mean, that plateau's off there. I mean, it's not super deep.
See, I feel like that'd be really good, really like late spring,
right? More
than anything, only because there's not enough of a consistent plateau at that slightly deeper water. When we're talking smallies this time of the year, we tend to find most of our success in that 25 to anywhere is broad from 25 to 55 feet, but really like that 35, 40 foot, 35, maybe 45 is like by far the most consistent. If you can find areas that have, good contour coming down to that, but then a wide area that offers that depth, like that 35 to 45 is kind of our magic range.
Like even in here is a good contour line. It's not much, but it's just enough where they'll hold up on this. But, I mean, if this was in like 30 to 40 feet, that would also be a really good spot because there's probably rocks on that.
See, that looks a little bit better.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah.
This dwell at 40 feet, 41 feet, but if you follow the contour lines along, Yeah, it still drops off a little fast, but this isn't too bad because you kind of got the.
Oh, it isn't. That's like 500 feet.
Nah, I mean, really, if you look at it, the scale's way over to the side. I'm sorry, but it takes 90 feet to go down to 2 feet. So actually, yeah, no, like that is actually a pretty good dwell. And if they are pushed out a little bit deeper, then you have that added benefit of this prolonged submerged point right here, which offers a ton of water in that
deep
49 to
right
52.
Too.
Yep, deep hole there, still with that high side, all against that really deep water. So like that's an area I would absolutely look for if you're talking big body water, you're looking for smallies out deep. Like that's definitely a good spot. This is it. This is literally all we do every time we go out and look. I just realized we're looking at the Cumberland Head. So actually knowing about that, I would absolutely swoop in here to the inside and get away from the current a little bit. Now this is all a little bit deeper, but look at that consistency and depth. All in this area, it's certainly would be worth looking at, especially right in here where it's kind of providing these current breaks. Although the current flows from south to north on this, so those are all good spots. If I were to keep going further north, I get the current that splits. But yeah, oh my god, right here, this would actually be I would absolutely be worth looking into, and I'd start right here on this steep break on the outside of that, and I would just follow it along on that 30-ish foot line around here and poke around there to take a look. But yeah, like, here's another spot. Boom. Like really big, long stretch of consistent depth. All right. Well, that's a big lake. That's for damn sure. Well, hang on. Well, let's take it back. Let's go to New Hampshire. So this is actually a really good example to go over for a body of water this time of the year, Squam Lake. I haven't even zoomed in yet, and you can see just how insane the difference in contours and depths there are here on this body of water.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like, it's honestly one of the reasons why I love fishing this lake so much is because of all the different crazy places you can fish, all different times of the year. But for somebody that's maybe not that well versed in fishing this time of the year, you go out to a body of water like this, like, your chances are a little bit better, bigger, deeper. There's a ton of fish here. Really, really good amounts of bait, too, especially smelt. So chances of success out here are fairly high, but you also have to break down 6,500 acres of water pretty fast, and it's not a big bowl with just a bunch of really good-looking points. Literally every square inch of this place looks juicy. How the hell do you go about making a decision on this? There can be fish found in the middle, but I still stand that for your most consistent bet for success, get to the main lake points. This right here, if you wanted to go to Squam, you go up by Hogue Island. I know I said main lake points, but this counts because the way you come off of the mainland up here to this island, the way it breaks, to me, this still counts as mainland point. It's an island, but it's not really. This is a phenomenal example of a great spot to start. High probability of success. Really deep water on both sides. You are right next to the main lake, which also does offer a ton of other different contours and depths and stuff out there. But look at the size of this plateau on this point. And it's at like one of the best depth ranges too. It's like 25 feet right at the top. I would prefer to see that close to 30.
Deep enough, and you can work all the way down that point.
Yeah, dude, left, right, all the way down off the end. Like, that's got
up in here, this little pocket here. They should be crawling all over this.
I can tell you that they are. When I would fish there late in the year, it was one of my favorite spots.
Oh, neat. So he just gave you some juice.
I did. But you know what the benefit of that, though, is? Like, it further illustrates everything that we talked about prior to this. At every other spot. Like, why is it good? Why do we think it's going to be good? Because history has told us repeatedly that it's good. So from there, you can kind of take that and replicate that setup in other areas. So continuing with that same theme, this time of the year, like this is it looks good, right? It looks really promising.
It's a little too mellow.
Yeah, a little too mellow, a little too shallow too. Like I want to see this dwell right here. This, I can't zoom in any further. This is a little too shallow for me. It's a little too small. But this area around it could also be really good. They don't have to be on the contours. One of the other things that we found that's really successful for us at this time of this year, these overlooked areas. Like this area right here, this is 34 feet. This entire flat could be loaded with them. And you want to go look at these contours because they're obvious and they're easy to set up on and figure it out. Small area of water to break down. It's also highly pressured areas. This dead zone in the middle also happens to offer like that magical depth. So this is another area, like, if you're not seeing them on this, just slide out a little bit and try out here in these flats. The same can be said for any other spot similar to this. The last thing is, you find the bait fish, you're going to find the bass. Easy peasy. And that'll do it. I really hope you found that helpful, and you guys can find your own success when you get out there, not only this weekend, but the rest of the season as you get out there for this late season fishing. There's a lot of risk and reward fishing this time of the year, but if you get out there, you put in the time and effort, and you use a lot of this as kind of an overall guideline to where and how you're going to go out and tackle these lakes, I do think you're going to be very successful. Hopefully you guys stick a giant. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.